Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
Today we're talking about Deadpool. Released in 2016, directed by Tim Miller, written by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, and starring Ryan Reynolds, Morena Baccarin, Ed Skrein, not really sure if it's Screen or Scrine, TJ Miller, Gina Carano, Brianna Hildebrand, and I don't know who plays Colossus. I think it's a couple of people. I think there was a dude on set, and then there was a voiceover actor who supplied the voice. But yeah, I saw this movie when it was first released in theaters, but I actually hadn't seen it since, and then we just watched it just now. So you had never seen it at all.
This is my first time.
What's your initial thought?
Well, first I'll just say I didn't want to really see it because I was just kind of getting the vibe that it was going to be nothing but like toilet humor, which is usually a miss for me. And I did not feel like that was the case. There was a lot of clever humor in here, and even some of the like toilet humor was pretty funny. So I really, really, really liked this movie.
Nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I thought it was pretty good. Like some other movies we've talked about, some of the humor feels forced to me at times.
Yeah, definitely.
But overall, I think there's a good amount of laugh-out-loud moments in the film.
Yeah, I felt like it was definitely not flooded with the forced humor.
Right.
Most of the humor I appreciated.
Yeah. So this movie almost didn't really happen. I guess they had a script, and 20th Century Fox, I think, kind of passed on it, and then they leaked. And I don't know who that is. I don't know if it was Ryan Reynolds or if it was visual effects guys or what. But somebody leaked the kind of CG scene that they had put together to convince Fox to do the movie. And fans everywhere kind of like just thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I remember when that happened.
Yeah,
and I really I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I did too.
It wasn't until I guess maybe the trailer. I can't even really remember what was in the trailer, but it seems like maybe the trailer was, and I knew that the character was one of those ones that definitely likes to push the boundaries. Mm-hmm. So I think that's maybe when I got the sense that this is just going to be a frat boy movie.
Right, okay.
And that's not what I was wanting.
Right. Like, trying to think of like an American Pie.
Yeah, basically.
Humor,
right.
Or
like 21 Jump Street, stuff like that.
Right. So the footage did really well. Fans really liked it, and Fox went, "Oh, okay, well maybe we should make this movie." And so they ended up making it. And I think, they were worried making a rated R superhero film, superhero in quotes, I guess there.
Understandably.
But it ended up being the highest grossing R-rated, I don't know. I feel like that record gets broken all the time. Like it just broke the highest record or the highest grossing R-rated horror film or something. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really sure if Deadpool still holds the record for whatever it was, but it made a lot of money.
Oh yeah, point. It was huge.
And
still, I mean, you've got the sequel coming out, and people, still talk about Deadpool today.
Right? Yeah, and it led the way for other kind of edgier movies. Like we wouldn't have gotten the R-rated Logan, had Deadpool not come out.
I still have not seen that.
It's a good one.
That's what I've heard. I definitely want to. I've loved everything I saw in the trailer and everything. So anyway.
And I'm assuming Ryan Reynolds was cast, I guess, before the movie got put on hold or shelved, because either that or he was just cast to voice Deadpool for that CG.
I think he was
scene.
This could be all rumor, but I think he kind of was pushing for the development of it.
Gotcha. Like he was behind. He was wanting it to get made just as much as
right. Because I remember hearing or reading that he is an actual Deadpool fan.
Right. I think he is.
So he was like, let's do this right.
I actually think Ryan Reynolds might be a comic book fan in general. Because of, until the movie failed horribly. I think he was a Green Lantern fan too and was all excited about being Green Lantern, but I do like the Green Lantern references in Deadpool. You see in the beginning, and then later he's saying, don't make the super suit green or animated.
He references himself, Ryan Reynolds, as his acting is. Look what he's doing for himself.
Have you read any Deadpool comics?
No.
Did Deadpool show up in the X-Men cartoon?
I don't remember. I know he was like around because I had 2 action figures of him actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had like.
Isn't that weird how that happens?
Yeah, like I had his trading cards, and I knew but that's the thing was I didn't know for a long time that he was not taken seriously, and I think has he always been like that, or was he originally a serious character?
I didn't really read a whole lot of Deadpool either, so I'm not sure. But as far as I know, I think he was always kind of a. I mean, his nickname is the Merc with a Mouth, so I think he's always kind of been.
I gotcha. I couldn't remember if another like writer and artist came along and
it's possible.
developed that, but anyway, as a child, I always thought Deadpool was like kind of like a Spider-Man, like just a ninja.
Right.
So I had 2 characters of him, and when I would play with the action figures, like he was a very mysterious kind of. I knew he was neutral,
right?
Probably on the back of one of those cards or something, affiliation.
That's what I'm wondering how I knew who Deadpool was, because I didn't read any Deadpool comics. I had a couple of Deadpool. I have like 2 issues of a Deadpool and Cable comic that I bought as an adult, but I knew who he was, and I feel like it must have been from those X-Men trading cards. And I always thought he looked really cool. I always thought Deadpool had one of the coolest costumes.
Oh yeah, and I knew about his burned face because the first figure I had was a very slender, almost like Spider-Man, like skinny Spider-Man-esque. The second one, he was much more beefy, and you could take his mask off.
Oh, interesting.
And he had, of course, had the burned, deformed face, so I was like, oh, that's why he wears the mask. And
I don't think I knew that until, I don't know when I didn't knew. It might have been when Wolverine came out, because that was Wolverine, which we haven't talked about. I don't think we've done an episode on Wolverine, but Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine was the first live-action Deadpool, technically. And it was played by Ryan Reynolds,
right?
Which is kind of interesting. Ryan Reynolds, it's not every day you kind of reboot a character and cast the same guy.
I can't think of a movie that's done that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm glad they did it. I didn't know about, you brought up Cable. I didn't know about their connection, but I do know some about Cable. I know he's a time traveler.
Right. He was on the X-Men cartoon. I remember that.
Yes. Yeah. He was early on in there. It was the first season of the, so maybe it was the second one. I can't remember, but it was something, I remember it was something to do with mutant, it doesn't matter.
Something to do with mutants?
Something to do with mutants.
That's probably
something
probably
to do
accurate.
With mutants. So, speaking of mutants and abilities, I did not know that the mutant gene is apparently in every single human being.
Yeah, and I was trying to look that up while we were watching the movie, and I don't know if that's canon to X-Men comics, but that's how this film presented it. This film. And I feel like one of the other X-Men films may have said something about that. About how, the mutant gene is in all of us, but only certain people, it's
gets that evolution.
Yeah. But yeah, in this film, they definitely point it in that direction, basically. And Ed Skrine's character, Francis Ajax, is giving him some sort of serum. And I don't know if it's something he developed or what. But some sort of serum that activates that gene, but in order for it to work, they have to put him under extreme stress, so that's why they keep torturing him and stuff.
That was actually one of the parts where I laughed out so many times in this movie. like, and I'm not in a theater. That takes talent right there to make someone laugh when they're not in a theater filled with people laughing. One of the parts that made me laugh out loud was when he found out his name was Francis.
Oh, right.
And then he makes fun of Ajax also. It's like, he got that from the dish soap. I mean, there was just, very nice wisecracks.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, he does have some really good one-liners / wisecracks. And I guess since there's so many, you can kind of overlook the forced ones, you know?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So.
They were the ones that made me laugh, man. I was like, that's quality stuff right there.
Yeah. So here, since I don't know, you know, like I said, I didn't really read Deadpool comics. I knew who Deadpool was, and I understood that he was this kind of goofier character in the X-Men universe, and does break the fourth wall and talk to the.
Which I love how I loved how they incorporated that in the movie. It was perfect. You could use him as a narrator and literally have him turn and look. That was so awkward the first time that happened. Mm-hmm. But at the same, you were just like, thank God that they're doing that.
Yeah. It wouldn't be. I mean, Deadpool does it a lot in the comics.
Right.
I do know that, and I don't think it would have felt like a Deadpool movie if he didn't talk to the audience.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And they took total advantage of the comedy that they could use with that too.
Yeah. So my question here is, he's put into this chamber that essentially suffocates him, and somehow that ruins his body, his skin.
Right. And Ajax mentions that it's a reaction
to the mutant gene activating?
Yes.
He
says I've seen reactions like this or something.
Gotcha.
Referencing that it's happened.
That answers my question, because my question was, I thought it was some sort of side effect of that suffocation.
That was my first thought too, and then he said that, and I was like, okay, I think it's a reaction.
And what I was thinking during the movie was, if he's got this healing power, why doesn't his skin heal? But if it's a something to do with the mutant gene, it's probably kind of like like Nightcrawler. He's got the ability to teleport, but he also is this blue. He's got that blue skin and a tail and all that. It's like it's almost like a.
Well, I don't know, like, because Nightcrawler is Mystique and.
Okay, so maybe he's a bad example. But let's say Beast then.
Right, there you go.
That's the fur and all that stuff. It's kind of a...
That he was born human.
Right, yeah.
And then it came out that's a good one.
Because of his mutant gene. Yeah. So, okay, I see that. So in order for Deadpool to have essentially, immortality, essentially, he...
Yeah, like to what degree does that go to? Like, if you have one cell of any part of his body left over, like, will he regenerate?
Yeah, I don't know. I was also thinking during the movie, it's hard to make a movie dramatic or suspenseful when your main character essentially can't be killed.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's probably why they ended up doing the whole storyline where they kidnap his girlfriend.
Right. Which I thought was awesome because you know how we've been talking about all of these superhero movies that are like doomsday scenarios.
Right.
And this is literally, they kidnapped my girlfriend and I'm going to go get her back.
Right, yeah. And it's still a pretty big finale being on that giant cargo ship or whatever.
Yeah, it's like an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, something. It was crazy. So it still had a big scope or whatever you want to call it to it. But yeah, it was like a simple little thing. But anyway, I'm guessing that's why they kidnapped her, so that there would be an added element of danger. Because if it was just Deadpool going after Francis again,
right?
Whatever. Because Deadpool's not going to get hurt. He can get. I mean, we've seen him get his arm cut off, and it just grows back. He got something shoved into his brain during that fight scene towards the end. That was when the song gets all messed up, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
He pulls it out of his head.
That was hilarious when he pulled it out. The song went back to normal.
Right.
Loved that.
I guess it's kind of similar to... it is very similar to Wolverine. Wolverine has that... Yeah. Essentially that same
Well, they're both
power.
from Weapon X, aren't they? Well...
Not in this movie, but...
But they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be.
Like, that was in the Wolverine
Correct.
movie, and I think... I could be getting yelled at right now, but I think that's the...
More accurate.
The more accurate origin.
Yeah, in Wolverine they called him like Weapon 11 or something. They never actually said Deadpool, but That's essentially who he was supposed to be, even though it was terrible.
But I don't know how he was created, like in the comics. Like, did he have the same powers that? Well, I guess in this they just activated it.
Right.
They didn't like put it in him, so it would have been the same.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And technically, I think Sabretooth is the same way also.
Healing power?
Yeah.
That could be.
I think.
I
think Wolverine and Sabretooth are pretty much one and the same. At least that's how I remember them in the younger days.
Right. But anyway, like Wolverine got shot in the head in X-Men 2.
Right.
To just push the bullet back out. So
right.
We've never seen...
Well, that's only because of the adamantium lining.
Oh, okay.
Like
on his skull.
Yeah, I think the bullet would have gone through his skull had he not had that on him.
But would he have healed?
It would have healed, though.
Gotcha. Yeah. But as far as I know, in the movies, we've never seen, as far as I can remember, we've never seen Wolverine get like a limb chopped off and grow back, like we did with Deadpool.
Right, and I don't think that is. I mean, is it? Is that one of his abilities?
Well, I guess Wolverine would never actually get a limb chopped off because he's got the adamantium skeleton, so it would never actually go all the way through. But I don't know. I mean, without the adamantium skeleton, before he got that put in, if he had had a limb chopped off, would it have just grown back? I assume, but I don't know.
Okay, so you're saying that Wade and Logan have the same power?
Yeah, the same power. I'm pretty sure.
Except Wade doesn't have bone claws.
Right, he doesn't have... right, and he doesn't have... Yeah, I mean, Wolverine, I guess, has kind of a twofer. It used to be, a long time ago, before they did Wolverine's origin story, because I remember talking with my friends in, like, 5th grade about this, how it was during the X-Men game on Sega Genesis. Because
that game was so good. I actually have that downstairs.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But
you're talking about the original one, right?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay.
But the power, like you could, if you were Cyclops, you could activate your mutant power, which was obviously the beams from your eyes. But then you had you only had a limited amount of power you could use, and it would drain. And with Wolverine, it was his claws. And
if you leave them out,
it would drain the power, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it would.
Yeah.
And I remember my friends being like, "That's dumb because that's not his mutant power. His mutant power is healing, not his claws." And back then, it was understood that his claws were added in when he got the adamantium skeleton. So it wasn't like he had bone claws. It wasn't until the origin story came out in the late 90s or something that...
I mean, I do remember finding out that they were bone later and like being like, what?
Yeah.
So maybe that's because that was just when that happened. Like, when did the origin come out?
I want to say it was like the late 90s or something, or it might have been like the early 2000s.
Okay.
I'll look it up real quick.
If, now that we're talking about that, I'll be honest, and I'd say that I would rather them have been added. Because I think the bone is just kind of weird. Like, why?
It was, so Origin came out in, each issue obviously came out between November 2001 to March 2002. So yeah, it wasn't until early 2000s that they decided to do the bone claw thing. So yeah, like as a kid, I always thought the claws thing was not his mutant power. But now the Wolverine the canon Wolverine now is that he's got healing power, but he's also got the bone claws.
It's definitely, it's an added element,
right,
of him. I don't know if I'd consider it a power, but yeah,
but it would be a mutant,
right? Exactly,
evolution or whatever,
right? So kind of. Yeah.
But so if you were going back before the early 2000s when it was revealed that he had bone claws, then yes, Wade Wilson and Logan essentially had the same power.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So Wade Wilson could have been given an adamantium skeleton had they wanted to, I suppose, because
that was probably their intent. Because I think they wanted to do that with everyone.
But they only did it for Weapon X. And
I think when Wolverine went like psycho, it just completely destroyed. I'm just speculating here. Like, this is complete speculation. But that, the facility, he went berserk. I do know that. And like, maybe
and they went,
ceased operation after that.
Maybe we should not give everybody adamantium claws.
I doubt they cared about that. They were probably, all we have to do is control him. But I think maybe all the research got destroyed. I don't know.
Oh, like he completely ruined every.
Yeah.
So they didn't know how. Yeah, I don't know, and I don't also know. Just because I haven't looked into it recently or anything, but I don't know how much adamantium is available.
Captain America's shield is supposed to be made with adamantium, isn't it? Like, it's in the movies. It's
in the movies. It's something else. Yeah,
vibranium.
Yeah, that's right.
But
I think it is adamantium in the.
I believe, yeah. I think the vibranium was created for the Marvel universe because
they don't have the rights to adamantium.
Exactly. So really, Black Panther is supposed to be harvesting adamantium. And not vibranium. Because his suit's, to my knowledge, adamantium originally.
Gotcha. So that also makes me, in the movies, vibranium is not very easy to come by.
Exactly.
So I wonder if it's the same thing with adamantium.
Yeah. It is. Because the whole shield, the whole thing about the metal being so rare, and Captain America's shield, I believe, it's always been like that too. So yeah, you had Lady Deathstrike, they got her.
Right.
And then I don't know really anything about the what's her name, X-23.
Right.
I don't know anything about her.
Mm-hmm. Did Lady Deathstrike have an adamantium skeleton?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay, well.
That's why she had this claw, like this
right,
claws.
I remember that. Like,
and in the movie, in X2, that is what I believed he was alluding to. Brian Cox, Stryker, was he said, I used to think you were one of a kind. I was wrong.
Mm.
And that's because she had the healing ability, and they were able to do another project or another creation through her.
Right. So Deadpool just kind of got screwed out of the adamantium.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like
I said, I don't know. I don't know if they were. I know, but
maybe. As a comic book writer, you essentially come up with a character who is the opposite of Wolverine in a way that Wolverine is kind of this very serious, no-nonsense type of character. So then you got Deadpool, who's all nonsense. But they have the same healing power, so I guess you also don't want to give him adamantium as well. You don't want to make him take too much from Wolverine, I suppose.
Yeah.
Plus, you wouldn't have that funny scene in the movie where he's punching Colossus and his arms are breaking
That's
and
right.
stuff.
That was not funny. I found that quite disturbing to watch his leg flopping around.
Yeah.
Thank God it was CGI.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about Colossus. What did you think about Colossus in the film?
The only thing I can say I liked about Colossus was the fact that they gave him like a big heart, because that's his character.
Right.
I felt like he was too thick.
Like too big.
Yeah, like I know he's, Colossus and everything, using the actual word there. But I felt like he was too thick muscular wise. And like kind of just his whole body, like his neck and everything just looked like. But
I hear you. One thing we didn't see with Colossus in this movie is him not in his metal state.
That's true. I didn't even think of that.
I don't know. Would he look like unnatural?
Yeah, I would imagine he was
in his human form.
He was kind of, like he dwarfed the Rock.
Right. Yeah. I'm almost positive it was like an actor wearing stilts on set.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's taller than.
And if you raise him up higher, you got to also make him wider too.
Right.
And also, I love that they kept him Russian,
mm-hmm.
but to me, it was like the thickest Russian accent people do, almost for like satire.
Right.
And I didn't. I wanted a softer Russian accent from him.
Right.
So
the Russian accent didn't bother me, and I guess I just liked because in the Brian Singer's X-Men 2, I've always liked Colossus. I've always thought he was a cool character. I've always thought he looked really cool.
Yeah,
and just that glimpse we got of Colossus in X-Men 2.
He didn't have a Russian accent in that either.
He didn't.
Did he?
He had an American accent.
Yeah,
and but when I saw him like turn into Colossus, essentially
fantastic.
It was amazing. But then that's all you got to see, so it was kind of a tease. And then we did get to see him in X-Men 3, which is fine. But you're right. I always kind of wish that he had the Russian accent. And so seeing him in this movie, I actually think he looks incredible. I think he looks like, like they pulled him straight out of the comics. He might be a little bigger than maybe he needs to be.
Design-wise,
Yeah.
like I was happy with, like, the outfit he wore. You had the layers of metal. They didn't just make him, like solid metal or change him in any way.
Exactly.
He looked. I agree. He definitely looked like the comic book character.
Yeah. And so, like, the accent didn't bother me just because I liked that he was actually Russian this time around. I'm hoping we get to see him in Deadpool 2. Excuse me. I'm hoping we get to see him in Deadpool 2. If anything, I would actually kind of like to see him transform. Mm-hmm. Maybe that'd be kind of a cool way to introduce him in the new one. Like maybe show this guy. Although they made him so big,
I was going to say
you're going to know who it is immediately as soon as you see him. But I was thinking maybe you see this like random guy and then he turns into Colossus.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. See, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely. I like that idea, but can't do it unless you, like you said, you know who he is. You just see the CGI wasn't bad. I feel like we talk about this a lot. I mean, they're getting closer. We still haven't done an episode on. Did we do an episode on Rogue One? We didn't.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I think they're definitely getting there. I'm not telling them to stop because then you just will never get to it.
Right.
But it's looking better and better.
I mean, they develop like new technology, it seems like all the time to do these certain things, and it's not flawless yet. And I don't know if it ever will be flawless, but I think it will get to the point where, I mean, CGI, you'd be amazed how often there's CGI and stuff that you don't actually notice.
Oh, yeah, I believe it.
But it's not usually people.
Right.
It's usually like backgrounds and vehicles or something like that, And
I remember the first movie to do it, from what I remember hearing, was The Patriot. That had, instead of a whole like bunch of actors, extras that had to be brought in for the armies,
CGI.
It was CGI in the background.
I remember watching, remember that movie Zodiac from 10 years ago, 2007?
Yeah, I actually saw it for the first time like a few months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love that movie, and I saw that in the theater, and I remember when it came out on DVD, I guess, there was like a special feature talking about all the special effects in the movie. And I couldn't, half of that stuff, like, there's a scene, if you watched it a couple months ago, so you probably remember, there's a scene where a cab driver gets murdered, and then they're, like, investigating that scene on the street. That was, like, all on a soundstage, like, in green screen, like...
What?
Yeah, like, I think they had, like, part of the building there on the green screen stage, but everything else, and the cab.
And that came out over 10 years,
It was 10 years ago, yeah. And it looked flawless to me in the movie. I still can't.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, like I was blown away by some of the CGI in that film. But anyway, people, they still haven't. People and animals still look almost a little too. It's weird because
it's the movement.
Yeah, it's like it almost looks rubbery.
Right.
But I don't know how you really fix that. But hopefully, eventually, we'll get to a place where
I think they will get to it,
Mm-hmm.
And I think they'll get to it sooner than we think. Even though I've been waiting since Jurassic Park, but
and Jurassic Park actually did animal movements very well in that.
They did.
So I don't understand why 24 years later we still can't quite get it down for other movies. But I think it might just be a matter of money.
Well, really, the only CGI that they did in Jurassic Park was, as far as the whole animal goes, I take that back. Wasn't
the Velociraptors in the kitchen were CGI?
No,
not all of it, but some of it was.
I don't think so.
It wasn't. I mean, I know some of it was puppets or whatever, but some
I don't
of it
remember
was
any
CGI.
CGI in that. So.
Yeah, in the kitchen there was.
Yeah.
And the T-Rex and then the Gallimimus were CGI in the field when they're like running
Yeah,
away
that's
from
true.
the Gallimimus.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up was the Gallimimus, because I didn't remember them being CGI, but of course that would have to be. And yeah, the T-Rex running. But, yeah, never mind.
They did
it
a
looked
very good
amazing.
job. Yeah. Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
So, I remember when I was looking, when the pictures of Colossus and her came out, I was looking up to see who she was, because I was thinking she was probably like Jubilee or
Right.
Dazzler or something. And I saw her name and I was like, who? I'd never heard of her.
I never heard of her either, and it was because she was created in like 2001 or 2002.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually a lot of the characters in this film were created around that time. Negasonic Teenage Warhead was the woman that Gina Carano plays, who's
Angel
Dust was created around that time, and also I believe Ajax was created around that time. So it was probably right around the time when I started getting back into comics.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly, I haven't been buying comics now, but in 2002 when the first Spider-Man movie came out, I went and started buying comics again, and I bought them for probably about 3 or 4 years maybe. But I've always been more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, so I kind of bought more DC comics than Marvel comics. But I never ran across Negasonic Teenage Warhead or Ajax or Angel Dust, so those characters were all new to me. I didn't know, still don't know really who they are or what they do.
Yeah, I'm assuming Negasonic Teenage Warhead, that's her name?
Yeah.
I guess her power is like she can make explosions, like just really large explosions.
Right,
like they're
yeah.
not nuclear explosions.
Some sort of she can like harness energy or something like night energy. I don't know. Yeah, I can look her up, I guess, and find out exactly what her power is.
And I guess what was Angel Dust? Just superhuman strength?
Yeah, she's super strength, I believe.
So,
which is kind of interesting that you would create a whole new character. I guess maybe if you have a storyline for them, but
it's like Superman without being able to fly.
Right. Then super strength is like not that
like everyone.
Original.
Yeah, I mean, Ajax has that.
Right.
Because what was it that I asked that when we were watching the movie? It was, I don't remember what it was, but I think Deadpool hit him or something like hard enough to where I was like, okay, does he have superhuman strength?
Right, yeah. Well, and just the fact that
I think it was punching. Yeah, he was like wailing on Wade, and I was like
throwing him around.
Mm-hmm.
So Negasonic Teenage Warhead actually has a bunch of abilities. It says telepathy and precognition at first, and then it says currently. So I'm guessing she doesn't have those powers anymore. Maybe that's what she had when she was first created. Mm-hmm. Currently, she has superhuman strength, speed, durability, and reflexes, reality warping, matter manipulation, nucleokinesis, and telekinesis.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly
That's a scary person.
Yeah. But it's interesting.
God.
I think they took some of those powers away from her for the movie, though, because when they started shooting guns at her, Deadpool had to grab her and push her undercover. So I think her speed and durability and reflexes, I guess, were taken away from her.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm guessing matter manipulation and nucleokinesis, whatever that is what she was using in the movie, creating those giant explosions.
Pretty cool. I actually liked her abilities and thought it was funny her, poking at teenagers being on their phone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I liked her in the movie. I thought she was good. I'm curious now, just as a character, because you know how you think about Rogue when she first learned that she had mutant powers. She kissed that in the movies anyway. She kissed that boy and basically put him in a coma. And then there's Scott Summers, who's at school and his eyes start going off, and he's burning down the school essentially. I wonder what Negasonic Teenage Warhead's life was like, when she suddenly her power started
she just
manifesting.
Burst into flame.
Yeah, and burned her house down, or blew it up, or whatever. So yeah, I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly either, but Morena Baccarin, Baccarin, I don't know.
Was she Vanessa?
Yes, I know her from Firefly. She was on that TV show.
She the? I gotcha.
Yeah.
What's her name?
I forget what her name was on the show.
The escort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm not caught up with this show by any means, but she was on Gotham. I don't know if she still is or not. But she was also on V when they tried to revive that show.
Oh yeah, yeah. I tried to watch that show.
So, but she did well in this movie. I thought she was well cast. She
absolutely
holds her own up against Ryan Reynolds, comedy, and she has a decent timing and stuff. So
yeah, I thought she did a great job.
She's essentially that prostitute with a heart of gold character that I guess you kind of see. There's not much more to her character than that. I guess if that was my one complaint about her character would just be, it's funny when Deadpool, when he leaves her to become Deadpool, essentially, it shows him like following her around, but we never actually see anything from her point of view ever. So the movie almost kind of forgets about her for a little while.
Right.
Which I think is maybe a misstep, but
I actually disagree because I think it actually adds. Because I think when you finally see her again, you kind of get to experience Wade's reaction to not have. I mean, you didn't forget
not
her.
having talked about her,
Yeah,
or talked to her.
You don't.
And the movie is from his point of view, so
right. Like he tries to approach her a few times, but then when you finally get that moment where he does get to talk to her again, I felt like if you had continued to do more stuff with her, maybe you wouldn't have gotten that feeling of, finally they're getting to meet again.
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Why do you think it was a misstep? Just because,
I don't know, just to me it felt like her character feels a little two-dimensional, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe being able to see her,
yeah, definitely, I can
would give her maybe a little more, meat to her story or whatever.
But for a two-dimensional character, I thought she
did a great job with it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because it didn't feel completely two-dimensional, but I definitely know what you're saying. What about Ajax? We didn't really talk. Who is that actor, by the way?
That's Ed Skrein or Skrine. I don't know how you say it.
What's he from?
You might recognize him from Game of Thrones. He was I forget exactly what his name is. Dario or something like that. Naharis or something like that.
That sounds familiar.
He was only in one season, and then they replaced him in the later seasons.
Oh wait, was that the guy with the long hair? Like,
yeah, he's like
Daenerys is like.
Yeah, there's Jorah.
Gotcha.
There's Daenerys, and then Jorah Mormont, and then there was him. I think his name was Dario.
And then they replaced him with the guy with the beard.
Yes.
Like a guy that didn't look anything like him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember the first time I watched that season, that threw me off because I hadn't put his name in my brain yet.
Right.
And I liked the guy this guy, Deadpool from Deadpool.
Other than that, he was also in. They did like a Transporter sequel a couple years ago, and he was the new Transporter guy.
I can see that. He kind of reminds me, he talks like Jude Law.
Yeah, he does. When I was watching it this time around, some of his speeches, I was like, man, he sounds just like somebody else, and I couldn't place it, but that's who it is. It's Jude Law. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I wonder if he and Jude Law come from the same part of town. I don't know. Since they're such similar accents.
I think so.
They could be brothers.
They
don't really look alike, I guess, but they sound alike.
Yeah. They sound just alike.
But anyway, I thought he was fine too. He holds his own up against Deadpool and everything, and I think he's actually a pretty decent actor. So I thought,
I did too.
I thought he was a good villain.
And this is really one of the first times that I felt like the villains were. There was nothing to them as far as their abilities go.
Right.
But they weren't boring.
Right. Yeah.
So that takes some talent too to be able to make the movie feel.
Mm-hmm. I will say about Ajax, I never felt like, and this might just be me, I never felt like he was the leader of those experiments. I guess he was. It always felt like somebody should have been above him pulling the strings or something. You know what I mean?
And I think there was, because I did too, because he had that meeting with whoever the guy was that Wade met with at the bar.
Agent Smith.
Oh yes, Agent Smith, of course. Agent Smith. It actually said Agent Smith like groaning or something in one of the subtitles. But yeah, when Wade shows up to the place and you meet Ajax for the first time, it was like he was meeting like a scientist that
right.
And now that you mention it, I didn't think about that, but yeah, I never felt like that he was the leader, but
like he was the one that was planning all that stuff and
Yeah.
everything. But I mean, I guess he was supposed to be, but it didn't feel that way. It definitely felt like he was just somebody
that had been
carrying
hired.
out the plan. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'd be curious if they do something. I don't know. I have no idea what the plot of Deadpool 2 is going to be, but
Well, I think the reason I never really thought about it was because the whole aspect of him going after Wade was just because he hates him.
right.
So it wasn't like you ruined my plans. It was I tried to kill you. And like, was there anything else to it? Like for him stealing his girlfriend besides you called me Francis?
Right. You know my real name. No, he
I loved the spelling out of the dead bodies.
yeah, that was pretty great.
It took me a while to pick up on. I was like, because I just saw dead bodies at first, and I was like, "Good God, what have you done, Deadpool?" And then I saw the S shape like right before it cut off, and I just died.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I did like the banter between, I'm not going to remember the character's name, but between Deadpool and the cab driver. I thought that was pretty good.
Right. Yeah, I did too. And the fact that he went and actually got was it his cousin or his...
Yeah, I think it was his cousin, yeah. And put him in the trunk.
There was something he was doing what was he doing when he was driving and then right before he slams into that...
That's the part that really... This is the part that made me think it was actually a genuinely funny moment versus a forced moment. This is the one that I actually wanted to talk about.
Okay.
It was when they get out of the taxi, and it's playing that rap song. I think it's like DMX or something. And they're doing the slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
And then Negasonic Teenage Warhead goes, "Where's your duffel bag full of guns?" And he's like, "Crap!" And he's calling on the phone, and the cab driver doesn't pick up, and that's when he gets into the accident. I thought and it shows him like waiting on the phone, like waiting for him to pick up while they're just standing there waiting to go into this battle, essentially. That part I thought was very funny.
I agree. I was dying there.
Yeah.
Dying. I mean, he left his guns in the car.
Pretty great.
Yeah. So, overall, I thought this movie was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I was super impressed with it. And honestly, I forgot when we were watching it, no offense to 20th Century Fox, but like this felt like a Marvel Studios movie to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's because Marvel Studios gets their characters right, and this got Deadpool right, I think.
Yeah, but it was 20th Century Fox. I mean, they do X-Men
right
well, but like...
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like a Marvel Studios movie because they got the character like so right. They were so true to the character, I think.
Fair enough.
But
the writing was just so good. It was just really good movie.
Yeah.
It was just really good movie. And
I hope
and 20th Century Fox does the X-Men movies. Awesome. There's a couple that we could talk about. I won't talk about them because we haven't actually done podcasts on them, but
I hope that they do just as good with Deadpool 2. There's a different director for Deadpool 2.
Oh.
He's the guy that directed John Wick, which was a really good action film.
I saw John Wick a few months ago also.
What'd you think?
I thought it was a good classic, like, thriller or whatever. I guess action thriller. Kind of like, almost felt like 90s inspired.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it didn't blow me away.
Right.
But it wasn't bad.
Right. Yeah. So Tim Miller's not directing. Tim Miller, I don't know why he didn't come back to direct Deadpool 2. Oh, I think he was. I think he was originally coming back to direct Deadpool 2, and then like he and Ryan Reynolds clashed or something on something. I think that's what actually happened. Because if you look up Tim Miller, this is the only movie he's directed.
What?
He's gotten like some short films under his belt, and he's like done a lot of visual effects type stuff, I think. But
dude, he nailed this.
Yeah, this is the only movie he's directed.
Wow. Congrats to you, man.
Yeah, so it's kind of a bummer that he's not coming back for part 2, but hopefully David Leitch, I think is his name, is doing part 2, so hopefully it'll be good. And I'm assuming it's written by the same guys, so obviously that'll...
But are we going to run into the same problem that we did with Transformers 2, and I have not seen yet, but I've heard some people talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the problems that they have where the comedy is so good in the first one and doesn't take away from the movie that the next one they push even further to where you just start. It's not a funny joke when it
feels like a parody of yourself.
I don't know if that's the way, but like if you, yeah, that kind of. I don't think it's funny when you can see the overconfidence coming out of the jokes,
right?
And they're
like, we nailed it the first time around, so we'll be
so it'll be
time.
funny, and we can do more of what we thought was funny,
right?
That we didn't put in the first movie, and usually it's not that funny,
right? Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I am excited about seeing Cable in the film. Josh Brolin.
Oh yeah,
Cable.
I always liked Cable's character.
Me too.
There's a guy called Strife, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. Oh, is it Strife? Someone. He's got like a silver like armor, and he has like this weird like metal mask that almost has like Statue of Liberty spikes.
Oh, interesting.
Going. But I had the figure of him. I can't remember. I don't remember if his name was Strife or something else. But his mask would like flip up, and it was the same head as Cable.
Oh, weird!
Like he had the yellow eye and everything. So I'm wondering if that character is a futuristic version of Cable. Mm-hmm. I never figured that out. Or because Cable, you know who Cable's dad is, right?
Cyclops, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think I can't remember if there was like a clone maybe of Cable was, or if there was a twin.
That'd be interesting.
Or if it was just maybe another version of him from the future. Could be one of those three things. I'm not sure. I doubt they'll touch on that character at all, though, in Deadpool 2. But who knows?
Who knows? The other character they've added is Domino, which I don't know much about Domino. I just know what she looks like. Again, I had an X-Men card of hers, or a Marvel card of hers, trading card. And I've always, again, kind of like Deadpool, just thought Domino looked awesome. Mm-hmm. And to me, I don't think it doesn't
giving
work.
her justice.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me, what they've got in the movie. But I'm willing to, give it a chance. I'm hoping the character, will kind of outweigh the look of the character, I guess.
Right. There's a character... I recognize the name Domino, and when I visualized Domino, it was not Domino.
Right.
Because I went and looked her up, and I was like... For some reason, I had this image of her being like an 80s rock star, like vixen almost.
Right.
And I think the movie version kind of looks like
that.
So when I saw her, I was like, okay, they're
all right.
Yeah. All right. But then I went back and I was like, okay, this is not even
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think they could have done a little bit better character design with her.
So, but we'll see. I'm willing to give it a chance, but
right.
But just visually based off, I try not to be the type of person that just like hates something just off of a still image, or something.
Oh yeah, I mean when back in 2000 when they showed the Wolverine wasn't going to be wearing yellow spandex, man, I was furious.
Some people were furious when Hugh Jackman got cast. Yeah, he wasn't even a known actor in the U.S. anyway at that point. But they were because in the
Because
comics,
he's 6 foot. He's like 6 something.
yeah,
isn't he?
and in the comics, Wolverine's always like short.
He's
and-
5'3".
Yeah,
I actually remember that information. Like that has been ingrained in my brain
Right.
because my mom is 5'3".
Oh, really?
And like when I was in 3rd grade, I got one of those like mini encyclopedia things about the characters, and like on Logan it said he was
5'3".
80 years old
Oh, wow.
and 5'3".
Yeah. So yeah, when they cast Hugh Jackman, who's like 6'2" or something, I don't know how tall he is. People were like, this is not Wolverine, you know, and now everybody loves him as Wolverine, of course.
Right.
And so I try not to be that way with stuff, you know, like even when trailers come. I mean, well, I'll try to reserve judgment for certain things until a trailer comes out, and then if a trailer just looks terrible, then I'll be like, that looks terrible. But if it doesn't look awesome, I'll still be like, well, hopefully the movie's good. Maybe it's just a bad trailer type of thing. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are, as soon as they see an image of something, they're like, this is not my X-Men or
Right.
whatever. So
That happened recently, didn't it? Was
I'm
something
sure.
else? Seems like I can't.
I remember thinking this must have been in like 2004-ish. But I remember seeing the very first behind the scenes photo that was released online of a Tumbler from Batman Begins.
Uh-huh.
It was sitting in the grass, so I think it was like outside the Batcave for wherever they shot that in England or whatever. And it was dark, but it was from kind of behind and to the side of the Batmobile, of the Tumbler. And I just saw those giant tires on the back, and I was like, what is this? Like, it just didn't, to me, did not look like the Batmobile.
That was my initial reaction, and to be honest, I don't know if I could ever say I've completely ever accepted that Batmobile.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I don't, like,
Once I saw it in action, I was pretty much sold.
I mean, I think for that universe it's cool, but I just, when I think of Batmobile, it's always Tim Burton,
Yeah,
89 Batmobile.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
Batmobile, I think, will always be my favorite Batmobile. But it wouldn't have worked in the Nolan universe.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah, I get why they did it, and it works very well. But accepting as far as, like, this is the Batmobile.
Right.
Like, it's the Bat Tank.
Right.
I was also going to say, a character that comes to mind. It wasn't who I was thinking of, but someone that people pretty much hated the first time they saw him, and I was on board and still am. Is Jared Leto's Joker?
Mm-hmm.
When they showed him, most of the internet had a heart attack.
Yeah, no, they freaked out, and I, you know, somebody who tries to reserve judgment based on photos. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Is this a joke?"
They're getting very, very serious about this character.
Yeah,
they're making him actually make jokes to the audience when he's not even in the movie yet.
Which would have been actually really funny if that's how it was. But no, he ended up looking exactly like that with the tattoos. It's just, I never in a million years would have said, I bet you this Joker's going to have tattoos. Like, right. I don't know why. Like, Joker's never had tattoos in any, well, at least as far as I know, he never had tattoos in any. He might have in the comics in like kind of a one-off type thing.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe on his bicep or something.
Yeah. But it was just, you know, it was the direction, I guess, that director wanted to take that character. And
they wanted my assumption is they wanted a fresh take on the Joker. Like, you guys have never seen this.
Right.
Because that's technically what Heath Ledger did.
Right.
And I understand the pressure that comes from. I wouldn't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
Like, you either recreate Nicholson or Ledger at that point. And you might want to try something new, but this was just, we're not doing a podcast on Suicide Squad. I should stop talking about it.
Well, that's fine. That being said, I will say I did like his performance, and I know a lot of people didn't. But I do think I would rather have seen a different looking or a different style Joker for Affleck's Batman. I feel like Affleck's Batman is so good
Yeah.
that, and I know some people disagree with that statement, but
Well, they're wrong.
but his performance as Batman is so good that it deserves kind of an equally as good Joker, and I don't know if that character design is equally as good.
I know. I can tell you the answer to that.
One of the things that I think they could have done maybe a tiny bit better in this film is Ryan Reynolds' like disfiguration.
Oh god, yeah.
You were talking about it in the scene when he's walking down the street. He's following Vanessa, and everybody's looking at him, and they're all giving him like these disgusted looking or scared looking faces. And you number one, you were like, no, not everybody would do that.
Right. It was like every single person he passed. And to interrupt real quick, I get, like
why they do it.
It's just a quick 20-second shot, and you have to give to the audience that he's getting a lot of stares.
Right. He looks terrible.
So you've got to have pretty much everyone in that scene looking at him
right.
to get the point across.
Correct. But in my opinion, he doesn't look bad enough to warrant those stares.
Right.
And I think they should have done a little bit more in terms of... I mean, he looks... To me, he doesn't even... Like, somebody mentioned him... One of the characters says something about him looking like Freddy Krueger, blah, blah, blah. And in my opinion, Freddy Krueger looks more disfigured than Wade Wilson.
He's got deeper scars and everything.
So I feel like they could have gone a little farther. I think it would have been more interesting to see, like, almost like a Two-Face type thing where, like, part of his mouth was kind of, like, twisted and messed up. And stuff like that.
See, like his teeth and gums on one side.
Like, I think they really should have made him look... Because, to me, I mean, the whole premise of the film... Or not the whole premise... I mean, I guess the whole premise of the film is that he's trying to... Well, number one, he's trying not to die from cancer. But then once he gets turned into Deadpool, he refuses to go back to Vanessa because he's afraid that she's going to just leave him because he looks terrible. And I didn't feel like he looked bad enough to warrant that decision.
So you're saying you would date him?
Oh, yeah.
Speaking about the disfiguration too, I guess they kind of had to do it to make him want to find Francis Ajax again,
right? But
because Ajax told him that he could cure him, and that his disfiguration was from a side effect of the mutation.
Right.
But I thought that the fact that he has, lights an explosion in his, like, canister.
Right, yeah.
Should have, and logically would have been the thing that would have caused all those scars.
I think the problem, though, is he would have already had the healing gene by then. And he would have just been able to heal himself after burning.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, I actually... Once you explained to me, because I missed it completely in the movie, twice apparently, once you explained to me that it was a side effect of the mutant gene activating, rather than him being in that chamber, it made way more sense to me. And I was like, okay, now I kind of accept that whole disfiguration, being the cause of that. But because I thought the reason he was going after Francis was because he put him in that tube, and that tube is what made his skin go terrible. But it was because the mutant gene finally got activated. But anyway, I just didn't think he looked... I mean, he looks bad, but I don't think he looks bad enough.
Not bad enough to date.
Right.
Well, okay.
I don't know. That's just me.
Hey, man, I'm not going to judge you for your taste.
I bet that's just me about how I feel about the disfiguration. All right, so is there anything else you have in mind?
I don't think so.
What's your rating on the film?
4.5 or 4.5. 4 out of 5 stars. If I was gonna, I guess 4.5 came out because I was kind of thinking that, but I don't do half, so I'll give it 4 out of 5.
Gotcha. For me, when I saw this movie in the theater, I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it really, and I don't really know why. I don't know why that is. And watching it this time, I forgot that it is pretty good, but I still don't really come away from it like loving it. And so for me, it's still a good rating, but I would give it a B+.
Yeah, cool. I think for me, I was just I was coming in. I'd heard how good it was. I tried to put this in like several months ago, and started like I got into about 20 seconds of the credits, maybe a little more. And my kids were home though, so my wife asked me what I was watching. I told her Deadpool, and she's like, "You can't watch that with the kids here." And I was like, "I know." So I turned it off. But just those few, less than a minute moment of what I saw of the credits, I was already cracking up.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that the rest of the movie was going to be like that it wasn't going to be all, potty humor.
Right.
And I think with the fact that I still was kind of under the idea that it was going to be like that, and it wasn't, and that it was really clever writing and humor, it just kind of blew me away even more. So, and a lot of it was just humor that I really appreciated. So,
yeah.
I think I, maybe liked it even. It just elevated my liking for it.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about Deadpool. You can always let us know at www.cinemaheroes.com. You can go to facebook.com/SM and SM podcast and leave us a comment. Or you can tweet at us. @CinemaHeroes is our handle. I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for remembering.